Okay, good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. So, we will just quickly revise what we had looked at in the last class, and then we will start off from there. So, we had looked at different processes of absorption and conduction, and one of the process that we had looked in detail was the imbibition. Now, if you remember imbibition, it was majorly a surface phenomena due to the hydrophilic nature of certain materials. They will absorb the water onto their surface, and that was especially a colloidal compounds which literally absorb, but they do not dissolve into the water like solvents, and those processes were called as imbibition. And this is again a type of diffusion, but only not going to the depth of the material. It was only a surface phenomenon, so that is imbibition. And then we had also looked at different characteristics of imbibition, including water potential, which is nothing but the ability of water to penetrate. Increase in volume, obviously, something which is absorbing water is going to swell a bit. For example, soaked seeds, so that will increase the volume. Water potential gradient, it usually happens because of the gradient which is created, that is high water concentration to low or no water concentration. Heat of wetting, that we had seen, like whatever water is getting absorbed, because of that the internal heat will get released, which we had also seen as enthalpy sometimes getting released in some of the cases. That is the heat of wetting. And the adsorption, that is just the mere physical adsorption, mere physical phenomena of the water absorption process, and that is due to the attractive forces between two substances. So I guess that's what we had looked at until last class. Now we will move forward with respect to the factors which will affect the process of imbibition. First one is pressure. Now again, you can simply imagine this: higher the pressure, higher the ability to penetrate something, right? So this is again a simple example, like whenever you use the uh, like a tube or a pipe like structure to water in your garden also. You, like, if you press at the tip of the tube or the pipe, the pressure is built up, so that way the water goes to the longer distance, right? That is like generation of the pressure. So in these cases also, when this surface attraction has to happen of the water, let's say in terms of soaking this is, if you increase the pressure of the system, there will be more penetration of the water, and sometimes even to the depth of the material. And the texture of imbibement, again depending on whether it's a smooth or rough surface, depending on that the surface area will be different. So obviously the water penetration area will be again increased or decreased depending on what is the texture. So ultimately imbibition will again be different. pH of the medium. Now, in some cases, there are very specific acid-base reactions can happen with respect to the solvent as well as the imbibant, and that way the pH of the medium will also cause the more or less imbibition depending on whatever are the conditions. So, again, for example, if the surface is more acidic, so the basic compounds will get more and more attracted towards it. That is a very natural tendency. Or if the surface of the seed is basic, then more and more acidic material can get absorbed onto the surface. So that way the affinity towards the pH will change the imbibition process. And if it is of the same pH, let's say the seed is also having acidic cover, and you are putting it into the acidic medium, the imbibition may not be to that great extent. That is because the same pH is existing between the surface as well as in the medium. And the affinity of the imbibant, for the imbibant, that is the general affinity. It can be electrical affinity or just the physical affinity of these two molecules, that is solvent and the colloid particle, and it will change uh, the imbibition process. Again, this has something to do with the surface adsorption phenomena itself, because let's say water is hydrophilic in nature, water is polar in nature, and that way all the polar molecules, they tend to be more hydrophilic. So if the seed surface has more polar molecule, that is more charged molecule, then it will have more absorption of water. At the same time, if it is hydrophobic cover over the seed or so, then water will not get absorbed, and that is quite obvious again, because hydrophobic, that means it will repel the water, so imbibition will be less. So that is like in general, these are the four factors which will affect the imbibition. There are quite many more factors, but we did not look into those many, like for example concentration, also the surface area and so on. But yeah, this is good enough for us to understand the imbibition process. Where does this imbibition uh, where is it involved in the in case of plants? So obviously that is the swelling of the seeds whenever we soak the seeds before their germination, or before we want to create a sapling also. That's where the swelling of seed is important, and ultimately it will result in breaking of the testa, that is sprout coming out of the seed. Imbibition is the initial step in the seed germination. That's what we know from this swelling of the seed, and so. So the water will move into the ovules, which are ripening into the seeds by imbibition. Now again, whenever like even in the earlier phases of the reproduction, in case of flower, the ovules, they will tend to take in more water, and that way ultimately when the seed is formed, this will ripen into the seeds completely by the imbibition process. So again, it's though it is just the surface phenomena, water will keep penetrating if the seed has porous nature, and that is the mechanism by which it will germinate as well. And imbibition is dominant in the initial stages of water absorption by roots. So whenever the uh, roots or the sapling is just growing, during those phases this imbibition phenomena is more and more dominant, and that is when you would have seen, if it is like a very thin root or young root, if I can say so, the young roots, they have more water content compared to the older root. So that is what it is meaning, that imbibition is dominant in the initial stages by the roots. So that is the general advantage of this imbibition process, or where all this imbibition takes place in case of plant. Does anyone have any question here on this particular slide? Okay, so if there are no questions, then we will move on to the second process, which is one of the important process in the absorption of water as well as mineral and nutrient, which is diffusion. Diffusion, simply you already have learned, I suppose, which is nothing but the movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. And the example is given on this picture here on this slide. Let's say when you add a drop of dye molecules into the water solution or the water, then slowly these dye molecules, they will move from the area of high concentration to the area of the low concentration, which is exactly diagonally opposite, or rather any of the corners, and it will spread equally throughout the water. So that is this is the state of equilibrium. So this diffusion of these dye molecules throughout the water, that is from higher concentration to lower concentration, that is nothing but the diffusion process. And it is the process of movement of molecules. Remember, there is something called as movement of solvent molecule. So in this case, water is the solvent, but in particularly in the diffusion, it specifically restrict to the movement of solute molecules. So again, I assume you are aware of what is solute, solvent, and solution, three terminologies. So for example, if you have a water, and if you add a salt, a pinch of salt to it, so your salt is a solute, water is a solvent, because solute is going to dissolve in your solvent. That is, salt is going to dissolve in the water. So salt is the solute, water is the solvent, and the salt solution is the example of the solution. So there is solute, solvent, and solution. So in this case, diffusion is the movement of solute molecules and not of the solvent molecule, because that will fall under the osmosis process. So that these are drastically different processes. One is solvent molecule movement, that is osmosis, and other one is solute movement, that is diffusion. And again, against a concentration gradient, that is from higher to lower concentration. Now, it is important process in living beings, because most of the substances that are present inside as well as outside the cell, they move across the cell membrane by the process of diffusion. So for example, let's say there is a higher level of sodium or potassium around the cell, it will enter the cell, because outside is higher concentration, inside the cell is lower concentration. So this sodium molecules, they will move inside the cell by the process of diffusion. So that is the overall process of this diffusion, that is movement of solute from higher concentration to lower concentration. I guess there is nothing much more to discuss about this in general. Maybe someone can give me an example apart from what I already said, in terms of where all the diffusion is applicable in case of plant. Deodorant, yeah, but that is the outside. We are talking specifically of the plant system and like human system or animal system. Where is the diffusion? So Tanisha just gave an example of deodorant, which is also true, because like from an area wherever you are spraying to the surrounding space, it goes on diffusing over the time. So that is still an example of diffusion. Huh?
Like when the roots absorb water, the water goes from higher concentration to lower concentration. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is true as well. Anyone? Anusha? Anusha, are you there? Yati?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me an example of diffusion?
Yes, sir. Sir, putting a drop of ink in water.
I said something that I haven't spoken, and specifically with respect to the plant system or animal system inside the body.
Um, Concentration of starch when like so when the food's being delivered. I guess I don't know.
Not really. That's not a clear example, I would say. Anyone else?
Sir,
Yes.
I'm not sure about this, but I recall that in the plant, the xylem brings the water and the phloem brings the food. Some water molecules from the xylem by diffusion move from the xylem to the phloem, right?
Not from xylem to phloem, but to the surrounding tissues. Like from phloem, whatever food is being carried, that will also, if we like if you remember, we had spoken of the radial movement, like along the radius of the movement from the center towards the periphery. So that movement is of diffusion, again in case of minerals as well as of the food, that is from xylem separately and phloem separately. Anyone else? Any other example? Otherwise, I will have to take many names. Neeraj,
Transpiration maybe.
sorry, what did you say?
Transpiration.
Transpiration. Transpiration is not a diffusion as such. Like we can't call sweating in human body as a process of diffusion. It is deliberate push because of the pressure which is generated, in specific in case of transpiration. Parikshit, Parikshit,
Yeah,
yeah, tell me. Hello, are you there? Are you trying to speak? Okay. Fine. So one of the example that I can give you is in case of your lungs, right? You inhale air, oxygen is getting diffused through the process of diffusion. Ultimately, it's binding to the hemoglobin, but still that process is of diffusion, and then it goes all over the body with the blood, right? So that is again an example of diffusion. In case of plants, various metabolites, which are like, let's say for example, photosynthesis happens. So the glucose is synthesized, certain byproducts are also synthesized, right? All of them, they move across the tissues through the process of diffusion, because wherever they are produced, there will be higher concentration, and wherever they are moving, there will be low concentration. So ultimately, the movement from higher concentration to lower concentration. So these are general examples of diffusion within the different system, whether it's a plant or animal. Now, again, the factors which will affect the process of diffusion, for example, temperature. Increase in temperature usually increases the solubility. So that way it will also increase the diffusion process, or it can also increase the porosity, and again it will increase the diffusion process. So that way temperature will always affect the diffusion process.
The increase in temperature increases what?
Uh,
If the temperature increases, the diffusion will also increase.
because of the solubility increase or because of the porosity increase. Area of interaction of, again, very obvious, more the surface area, more the diffusion, less the surface area, less the diffusion. There is nothing more to explain there. Size of the particle, smaller the size, diffusion will be easier, and larger the size, then the diffusion will be a little difficult, or may not even happen at all. The steepness of the concentration gradient, that means how much is the concentration difference between the higher concentration and lower concentration. Let's say for example, in one of the compartment, it has 100 grams of salt, and in the other compartment there is a 0 gram of the salt dissolved in water. So if the diffusion has to happen from 100 gram to 0 gram of the salt, diffusion will be much faster. Now, let's say instead of 100 gram, you only add 10 gram to versus 0 gram of the salt within the two compartments, which are just separated by a simpler membrane, right? In that case, 10 gram versus 0 gram will have slower rate of diffusion. So the steepness of the concentration gradient matters there. So if the concentration difference is too much, diffusion is faster. If the concentration gradient is not much, then the diffusion will be slow. It's a simple thing. For example, again, like whenever you are trying to dissolve the sugar, at first it will dissolve very fast because there are so many areas where there is no sugar within a glass or a cup or whatever it is, right? And the moment you keep adding, because there is already enough sugar, the concentration gradient has reduced, and that's when the sugar does not dissolve any longer after a certain time. So that is just a quick example of this steepness in the concentration gradient. And so these are the four factors. Again, there are many other factors, but we are not looking at. These are the four major ones that we are looking at, which will affect the process of diffusion. Now, something similar that happens in the dialysis process. Again, does anyone know what dialysis is without looking at the slide content? And even if you look, you have to explain. Can someone try it? Kimayan?
I'm not sure, but I think they do it at the eye doctor's place to like look at your eye better. I'm not sure.
Is it kidney, you mean to say, or eyes?
Eyes, sir.
Eye dialysis.
Sir, it is like
Yeah, go ahead.
substitution for kidney function.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I was saying it is like a substitution for kidney function.
Right. Again,
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
in case of eyes also there is a dialysis which is done, but that is when the again it's a very critical process, I must say, when the eye pressure is too much, right? Eye pressure is too much. That happens when the fluid inside the eye is that the eye is like a spherical ball, right? Within this spherical ball there is a fluid which we call as what is it, vitreous liquid or vitreous fluid. And when the size increases or when the fluid increases, the eye pressure has been increased, and that is when sometimes you have to literally put a syringe inside and take out a liquid, or put or undergo the dialysis process, which is again like a very critical version of the same kidney dialysis, because eye is a more delicate structure compared to kidney. So but what exactly happens in that dialysis? Shantanu, would you know? Do you know?
So, sir, there is a dialyzer. It is connected to the kidneys, and it helps in removing the waste products from the fluids of our body, I guess, by diffusion process. I
Right,
don't know very detail. I don't know in very detail, but I
right.
know that it's
Okay,
process of removing waste from the fluids,
okay.
like
So,
blood or something.
so what exactly is done there is, now we know kidneys, they get a blood supply, and the whatever is like after filtration, kidneys will take out that blood supply and bring it back to the heart, right? So whatever is incoming blood supply to kidney, that is connected to a dialysis machine, right? So all the incoming blood from a vein will go to the dialysis machine instead of kidneys. And then because of the, let's say our blood will have higher metabolites, and the dialysis unit in the other compartment, which is separated by a membrane, will have very low concentration of metabolites. So the diffusion from higher level of this metabolite or higher concentration from the blood will happen in the dialysis chamber. And then because of the metabolite absorption, the level of metabolites within the blood has dropped, and then that is pumped back into the circulatory system. So that way the dialysis function with the kidneys. And this is actually, they use a very selectively permeable membrane which will allow certain specific ions or molecules to pass through. So that is the specialty of this dialysis process. So when the kidneys, they are not able to do their function, we do this artificial dialysis process, which is nothing but a filtration system using the diffusion as the phenomenon. Okay, again, so just to go over this two types, there are two types of diffusion. One is simple diffusion, which is nothing but what we had seen earlier. which does not need any help from anything or any of the molecules within the system. So here what is highlighted is without any help of transport protein. And the facilitated diffusion is something that requires like some molecules. So the passive movement of the molecules across the cell membrane, but by means of a carrier molecule, right? So first case, like when there was a higher concentration here, the molecules, that is these blue particles, they have moved from higher concentration to lower concentration. The diagram is actually showing the end result. Yeah, so ideally the concentration of this blue molecule was higher on the lower side, and it transfers or diffuse throughout the time, and that is what is simple diffusion, which does not need any molecule. It can just happen through the membrane or layer. On the other side, facilitated diffusion will always need the help of this molecule. Again, there will be higher concentration on the lower side of this blue particle, and the lower concentration at the start on the upper side, and the molecules will get transferred using this carrier molecule across the membrane. So at the end, what you get is higher concentration on the upper side and the lower concentration on the like below side. So that way, this facilitated diffusion and simple diffusion, the only difference is presence of carrier molecule or presence of a helper molecule. And these molecules are nothing but the proteins, right? Usually these proteins, they again take the molecule from inside and throw it outside if the concentration gradient is from inside higher to outside lower. Or the most important fact with facilitated diffusion is it works against, it works along the concentration gradient and not against. And if it is happening against the concentration gradient, then it is called as active transport, which we'll see later. But at this moment, what you need to know is simple diffusion does not need any help, and the movement of solute is from higher to lower concentration. Facilitated diffusion is again a movement of solute from higher concentration to lower concentration, which is same, but the only difference is with the help of some protein or some carrier molecule or some helper molecule. So that is the these are the two types of diffusion. The third type is actually active transport, which we'll see later, which is the third diagram. But I'll come back to it later. So that is the these are the two types. Now, any question related to diffusion process? The example of facilitated diffusion is like when your cells need higher glucose molecule, they are either taken up by the active transport, which is with the help of certain protein molecules and against the concentration gradient, or it can also be happening with the facilitated diffusion that will absorb more and more glucose inside the cell so that more energy can be generated. So that is an example of simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion. And simple diffusion, we have seen enough example already. Okay, so that is the simple diffusion. Then the second process is osmosis. So again, not the second, rather third. First was imbibition, second was diffusion, and the third process of the absorption of different molecules within a plant or animal system is osmosis. So again, in the earlier case, diffusion was movement of solute molecules. Osmosis is the movement of solvent molecule, nothing different. So if you look at the diagram, here there are these red particles, which is showing ultimately the solute, and blue thing is water, or you can call it solvent. In this compartment, which is the other compartment, there is higher concentration of the solute and same concentration of water. On left side, what we have is the lower concentration of solute and again same concentration of water. So in this case, if the osmosis has to happen, osmosis will happen of the solvent molecule wherever there is higher concentration of the solvent. Now if you compare this side and right side and left side, the higher concentration of water is on this side. So let me try and explain this with the help of diagram on the board, because that will give more clarity than that diagram. So okay, so let's say we have this chamber, yeah, and there is this membrane which is separating the uh, compartments. Now this has water and this also has water. Now I am not drawing inside on the water, but let's say on this side there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 solute molecules, and on this side there are quite more. Yeah. So this side it is higher concentration of solute, right? Pay attention to this word. Here there is lower concentration of solute. Now in this compartment, let's say there are total whatever 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 molecules, and there are 8 molecules of solute and 100 molecules of solvent. So total is 108. So out of 108, we have 100 molecules. Right? So if you calculate the percentage, it would be somewhere around 95 or so. Right? So I am approximately writing 95 or 90%, whatever that is, that doesn't matter. Now in this case, there are, let's say, how many other 20. For simplicity, I just take 20 particles are there, solute particles, and solvent molecules are same because water level is same in both. So if there are 100 on this side, there should be 100. So here, out of 120, there is only 100 molecules. So percentage wise, there is more percentage of solvent on this side and less percentage on this side. Here it should be somewhere around, I guess, 80 or so. Again, this is all approximate figures, but what I am trying to say, if this is higher concentration, lower concentration of solute, it is higher concentration of water, right? So it will be higher concentration of solvent, and here it will be lower concentration of solvent. Right? This is called as dilute solution, right? And this is called as concentrated solution, right? So now, if the diffusion has to happen, diffusion will happen of these red particles. So from here, higher concentration to lower concentration, that is diffusion. Osmosis is of the water molecule or of the solvent molecule, again in the same direction of higher concentration to lower concentration, but of solvent. So that means osmosis will happen in this direction. That means water will move from dilute to concentration or concentrated solution, or in the other case, if I have to say, water will move from higher concentration of water molecule to the lower concentration of water molecule. If I talk in terms of solute, water will move from lower concentration of solute to higher concentration of solute. Yeah, you have to understand the relative terminologies. Yeah, it's all related to each other. These numbers, they are just hypothetical given to you for the understanding this total business, right? But otherwise, so osmosis is movement of water again along the concentration gradient, but from it comes to the lower concentration of the solute or the dilute solution or the higher concentration of solute, right? And it will go to the side of the osmosis. It will water will move to the side of higher concentration of solute to the concentrated solution or to the lower concentration of solute. Now you have to attain a state of equilibrium, right? The end goal of diffusion or osmosis is equilibrium. That means same number of water molecule with respect to same number of solute molecule, right? So if it has to achieve, that means the water level has to be only required by the only these many molecules of solute. Here there are more solute molecules. So let's say, for example, in another case, one solute molecule is attracted to one water molecule, right? Now, again, in the other scenario, if that ratio is 1:1, and on this side, again, let's say this is the water level, this is the semi-permeable membrane. Here on this side, I have 20 solute molecules, and here I have, let's say, 50 solute molecules, right? Or I make it 80, just to make it 100. Yeah, 20 solute molecules, 80 solute molecules. Here I will have 50 solvent molecules, 50 solvent molecules, and on this side also 50 solvent molecules. Why? Because it is equal level both sides. Now, if it has to 1:1 ratio, one solute and one solvent, that means on this side only 20 molecules should stay, right? So that they will match with these 20 solute molecules. So 20 solute molecules, 20 solvent molecules, and these remaining 30 will move to the other side to make 80 solute molecules and 80 solvent molecules. That is the process of osmosis. If we talk of diffusion, these 30 molecules from here will move from that side to this side. So it will make 30 solute molecules, sorry, 50 solute molecules and 50 solvent. So end goal of both the processes, that is diffusion as well as osmosis, is same, that is equilibrium, and that depends on what kind of membrane is present. In diffusion, it will only allow the movement of solute. In osmosis, the membrane is different. Now we are showing in one diagram, that does not mean in both the processes the membrane is same. Osmosis has a different membrane, diffusion has a different membrane. In osmosis, it will only allow the solvent molecule. So I hope these processes are clear, and you can follow all these details. Does anyone have any question here? I hope you are following and not sleepy. Well, so okay, so so that is the process of osmosis. It may not, we may not like need not explain it again here, because I assume that was good enough on the board. Now, just two more additional things with respect to osmosis. That is, there are two types of movement. Now, osmosis is clear, that is movement of solvent molecule. But in which direction does it happen? Whether it is happening inside the cell or if it is happening outside the cell. So we all know the plasma membrane of a cell acts as a semi-permeable membrane. So if the movement of solvent or water is happening inside the cell, that is endoosmosis. Endo means inward, and osmosis or osmo mean a push or a thrust, right? So inward diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane is endoosmosis. That means water is moving inside the cell. And exo is exactly opposite. From inside of the cell, water is moving outside. That is exoosmosis. Now, this was more of a compartment within artificial system. So in our body, we don't have this compartment-like system, but rather we have cells. So it can be either inside the cell or movement can be either outside the cell. So depending on whatever that movement is, endo will be inside movement and exo will be outside movement. So that is, these are the two different phenomena related to osmosis, and then we specifically say whether it is an endoosmosis of a particular molecule or a particular solvent, or if it is a exoosmosis of the water-like molecule. So these are the two terminal. Now you can simply imagine, if in case of endoosmosis, if the water is moving inside, obviously cell is going to become like a very flat blob, right? It is going to have its wall very tight because the pressure inside the cell is increasing, right? That is nothing but the turgidity. Like when you blow a balloon to its fullest capacity, that's something like turgidity, that the skin of the balloon or the layer of the balloon is no more pushable to another extent. So that is turgidity. That situation is like turgidity, that the inner pressure is so much that it has led to the complete bulging of that particular structure. So that is the turgidity. And in case of exoosmosis, you can imagine again, if the water is moving from inside to outside, the cell is going to shrink, or at least the plasma membrane is going to shrink, and that particular process or type of cell or it's either called as flaccid cell, or the process is called as flaccidity. Yeah, so turgidity is nothing but total bulging or pressure like situation. And in case of that happens in endoosmosis, and in exoosmosis, because the water is going out, cell is going to shrink, so that is the flaccidity. So these two phenomena we are going to see later also in more detail. Why does that happen and what does it lead to at the end? So we'll come back to it at some time point later. So that is more about the osmosis and the diffusion process. This is just one example. Like for example, you take resins, which resins are now little shrunken in their shape and texture, right? When you pour them in water or when you put them in water, they get swollen. That is because of the endoosmosis. That is, resin is like a cell here. Now water is moving from outside to inside, and that is what leads to the swollen resin. That is endoosmosis. On contrary, if you put grapes in the salt solution, now the difference you have to remember, if you put grapes in water, nothing will matter, because grapes might swell even further till they are burst, right? That is still endoosmosis. Now if we have to exhibit the phenomena of exoosmosis, we have to put salt solution, that is higher concentration of solute, from the lower concentration which is inside the grape. Obviously inside grape there will be no salt, you can simply imagine, that is lower concentration. Outside it will be higher concentration, so water will move from inside to outside, and then the grapes will like shrunk a bit, that is shrunken grapes ultimately is the process of exoosmosis. So I hope this example clarifies it further, both of these processes. How much time do we have? Okay, I guess I will stop here. I will not discuss this concept of osmotic pressure for now. Does anyone have any question? Anyone?